After my legitimate older sister was rescued from drowning in the lake, she said she experienced rebirth. She abandoned the young master from the Prime Minister's residence whom she had admired for so long, and threw herself into the arms of my utterly ordinary fiancé. He doesn't love you anyway. He is just using you as my substitute. When he reaches the height of power, that is when he'll abandon you, his wife from humble beginnings. As a concubine-born daughter, I could only smile and yield with cupped hands. My legitimate older sister has already died once. Doesn't she understand yet that men can't be relied upon? When Wen Changfeng came to my house to present betrothal gifts, he was dressed in fine clothes on a spirited horse, full of vigor. I risked being scolded and hid behind the screen to peek. The man had clean features, his ink-black hair tied high, revealing gentle modesty in every gesture, the most refined type among ordinary people. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling I should be worthy of him. He discussed politics and history with father, showing extensive knowledge, both ancient and modern, neither servile nor overbearing, making father smile and nod frequently. I calculated in my heart whether marrying him would let me live better than in this Yun residence. Wen Changfeng performed very well, showing not the slightest contempt or dissatisfaction due to my concubine-born status, until my legitimate older sister Yunshu returned from her outing. Ignoring the servant's attempts to stop her, she stormed into the room in a flurry. Her flamboyant peony red dress, as she rushed about, was like burning flames, causing Wen Changfeng to unconsciously shift his gaze to her. Yunshu, disregarding the presence of an outside man, leaned on father's knee, raising her eyebrows and blinking as she talked about interesting stories from outside. She told how she chased away a greedy peddler, saved a young girl being harassed, and even helped a little rabbit escape from a trap. When Changfeng stopped talking, he stared in amazement at Yunshu's flushed cheeks. Father dotingly stroked her black hair, gently chiding, "Ashu, there is an outsider present, don't be rude." The next second, Wen Changfeng's passionate gaze froze. Like a basin of cold water mercilessly poured on a weak flame that had just been lit. Because the girl he was to marry was named Yunsha, not Yunshu. The falling flower has feelings, but the flowing water is heartless. Every time Wen Changfeng had someone deliver gifts to me, there was always a share for my legitimate elder sister. And in his letters of greeting, he always added a line sending regards to Miss Yunshu. It is just a pity that legitimate elder sister would always glance at them briefly before tossing them aside. The man in her heart was the legitimate young master of the Prime Minister's residence, Zhao Qinchen. Young Master Zhao was suave and dashing, his looks rivaling Panan. But father felt that young Master Zhao was too dissolute. Over 20, yet not concerned with pursuing a career, only lingering in feminine fragrances. He really couldn't be considered someone to entrust one's life to. The only thing he had going for him was his status as the Prime Minister's legitimate youngest son. Father ordered me to counsel legitimate elder sister, telling her not to set her heart on a piece of mud that can't be plastered on the wall. I went, and as it happened, she was eating grapes that Zhao Qinshan had sent. Someone like young Master Zhao is an existence you could never aspire to in your entire life. You should be happy for me that he has taken a liking to me. She sneered at me in turn, casually picking up a grape and playfully tossing it at my forehead. With a thud, I frowned and covered my forehead. She was beside herself with laughter. "Yunsha, don't be like someone who can't reach the grapes and calls them sour." I lowered my head, silently enduring her insults. I am a concubine-born daughter. My mother was originally a servant who attended to father, and I only came to be through an accident. To put it bluntly, I am also just a servant. When the master is pleased, they give you food to eat. When the master is displeased, being beaten to death with sticks isn't wrong in the slightest. This is the principle Yung Su taught me. She threw another grape at me, hitting squarely on the tip of my nose, making her giggle. "Do you know, this one grape is worth your entire month's allowance. Only young Master Zhao can afford to send these for me to eat. She loved most to mock me for being poor and stingy. You." Her eyes sparkled brightly. "Just like your dead mother, reeking of poverty all over. What would you understand anyway?" I lowered my head, staring at the tips of my shoes, saying nothing. My mother died because of Yungshu's trickery. When I was young, I was taking an afternoon nap when Yungshu sneaked over, wanting to snatch my cloth doll. Mother tried to dissuade her with a word, saying I would cry if I woke up and couldn't find the doll. She got angry and ran out, threatening to jump into the lake. She lightly jumped in, and my aunt was scared to death, could only brace herself and jump in to save her too. But she knew how to swim. Me aunt didn't. She climbed back onto the shore, didn't call for anyone, just giggled and watched my aunt flail in the lake water and sink to the bottom. When I was woken up, my aunt's body had already been carried out and buried. When questioned, Yunshu's usual trick was to cry. Simple, crude, effective. She said my aunt just wanted to go to the bottom of the lake to retrieve the money she dropped, and died because of greed. Me aunt brought it upon herself. It had nothing to do with her. Everyone believed her. So from that day on, aside from the money I had on me, I didn't need anything else. Seeing me stay silent, Yunshu snorted, then casually crushed a grape, letting the crystal clear juice drip onto the ground. "See, you can't afford these grapes, yet I can crush them at will. Don't be so young, and instead of learning useful things, learn to be jealous and bitter, unable to stand seeing others doing well." I lowered my head and replied, "Thank you for your guidance, sister." I stepped back a few steps and walked out. After that, I shut my mouth. Father flew into a rage, would rather send her to become a nun than allow her to marry young Master Zhao. Yunshu had no way out, watched as other women gained favor with young Master Zhao. She panicked. On a dark and windy night, Yunshu sneaked out and only returned the next morning. When she came back, her clothes were disheveled, her hairdo askew, several hairpins had fallen off. She told me proudly that she had already pledged herself to Zhao Qinchin in private, and as soon as father agreed, Zhao Qinchin would come to the Yun Manor to propose. I was shocked, but it was also within expectations. "You haven't married yet. How could you?" She glared at me, stretched out her finger and jabbed my forehead hard. "You fool, with so many beauties around young Master Zhao, if I don't invest heavily, how could I hook him?" My scalp tingled. "Then how do we get father to agree?" she said with a grin. "I'll go find father in a bit and say if I can't marry him, I'll jump into the lake. Father will surely think I am just speaking in anger. Later, you just wait by the lake, and as soon as I get in the water, go call father over. I can swim anyway, so it is fine." I froze. She let out an sound, frowned, and looked me over. "You are not still holding a grudge against me, are you?" I shook my head, putting on an obedient appearance. As an unfavored concubine-born daughter, I had always been cautious with my words and actions, staying as invisible as possible. And the essence of existence was when others needed to use me. Father used my restraint and propriety to showcase the harmony of the inner quarters. Me, legitimate elder sister, used my dullness to set off her noble radiance. What about Wen Changfeng? He too wanted to use me as a stepping stone to climb up father's ladder to success. Didn't he? I could almost foresee my future, but I didn't care. I just wanted to survive. Better yet, to survive with dignity. All that love and romance stuff wasn't as important as my own life. It is just that, before I could probe Wen Changfeng's inner thoughts, an accident happened. After Yunshu fell into the water, I promptly called father back, but didn't expect that Wen Changfeng was also in father's study. He had come to discuss matters regarding our wedding. When father learned that Yunshu had fallen into the water, He left in a hurry without looking back. He also looked anxiously toward the outside, but didn't follow. Second, Miss Yoon. He always addressed me this way, while he called Yunshu Miss Yoon. Human life is at stake. It would be inappropriate for me to stay. I'll take my leave first. He lowered his head, cupped his hands together, and bowed properly. His good upbringing prevented him from doing something as fickle as shifting affections. But his wavering and divided heart were also undeniable. I returned the courtesy indifferently. He stepped out of the study door, and just as he lifted his foot, Yunshu's tearful cries grew closer and closer. He froze. How I wished he would just turn around and leave, not caring about what happened to Yunshu. But he still turned back with feigned hesitation, standing in place, looking expectantly toward the direction of the rear courtyard. Young Master Wen. My voice trembled. A bad premonition surging in my heart. Let me see you out. Taking 3 steps in 2 strides, I walked in front of Wen Changfeng, gesturing for him to follow. He still refused to leave, still gazing toward the rear courtyard. Yunshu's voice grew nearer and nearer, and in just a few breaths, Yunshu, soaking wet all over and with reddened eyes, came running over. She rushed straight into Wen Changfeng's arms, hugged his waist tightly, and without a word kissed him on the cheek again. Me heart jolted in shock, and I clenched my fingers hard. That was my betrothed fiancé. Yunshu knew this. The blood in my entire body seemed to freeze. My chest felt like it was violently struck by a 1,000-pound hammer, and I was completely shattered to pieces. When Changfeng froze in a daze, he didn't push her away, but instead restrained his excitement and gently patted Yunshu's back. His fingers lingered, and I couldn't help but feel my blood roiling, my vision blurring. In that instant, it was as if a fire burned away the fantasy and hope that had just risen in my heart. Yunshu didn't dare sleep at night, and specifically demanded that I keep her company. In her eyes, I naturally wasn't worthy of lying on the same bed as her, nor should I lay bedding on the floor. So I naturally moved a wooden stool over, sat by her bedside, propped my head on my arm, and listened to her talk. Yunsha, the previous life was too horrible. Zhao Qinchen isn't human. He only married me as a concubine. He had countless chambermaids and abused and humiliated me. I was just a pawn he used to win over others. My drowsy mind suddenly snapped awake. I looked at her carefully, but she didn't seem to notice anything wrong. You had better fortune, though. Wen Changfeng rose steadily afterward and actually became the Prime Minister, standing as an equal to Zhao Qinchen. When she said this, Yunshu was extremely confused. After that, I died under Zhao Qinchen's torment. Wen Changfeng's power was at its peak, yet you voluntarily proposed a divorce, took some money and shops, abandoned everything and left. Yunsha, why did you divorce him? He was already the Prime Minister. At that time, the whole world knew of Wen Changfeng's prestige. It was simply below one person above 10,000 people. Yunshu's face involuntarily flushed with a rosy tint, her jade-smooth earlobes turning pink. I listened silently. Originally, I didn't believe it. Yunxia, I want to marry Wen Changfeng. He likes me, I know it. She suddenly sat up and gripped my arm tightly. He only treats you as my substitute. You are going to divorce him eventually anyway, so why not just let me marry him instead? Seeing the determination in her eyes, I finally began to carefully consider this matter of rebirth. To make someone like Yunshu, who has her eyes on the top and never acts without profit, throw herself at him so eagerly, could it be that rebirth is real? And moreover, I will divorce Wen Changfeng in the future. What exactly happened to make someone like me, who only wants to stay alive, feel compelled to propose a divorce? I am very certain I won't fall in love with Wen Changfeng. He must have done something worthy of death that would implicate me in my past life, which is why I had no choice but to leave. I curved my lips into a smile. Sure, sister, you marry him. Since Yunshu is so eager to throw herself at him, I'll let her have him. The stool was hard. I sat with my back straight for several hours. My whole body ached, muscles swollen and numb. I endured it patiently, listening to Yunshu talk about her previous life's misery and unrequited love. She was scared yet excited, her desperate need to pour it all out. Let me catch a break. It was as if only by talking non-stop could she dispel her unwillingness and lingering fear. I desperately tried to remember those things that might be useful to me, not daring to miss a single word. Until she fell into a deep sleep. I tiptoed over and blew out the lamp. In the darkness, Yunshu's brows were still furrowed, her lips pressed tight. It seems she doesn't know about the things I've been doing behind the scenes. This is the moment that sets the tone for the entire story. Yunsha's legitimate older sister, Yunshu, experiences rebirth and immediately demands to steal Yunsha's fiancé, Wen Changfeng, because she assumes he is destined for greatness. Instead of fighting back, crying or begging, Yunsha simply smiles and hands him over. Why? Because Yunsha knows something her sister doesn't. Every tragedy in Yunshu's past life was orchestrated by Yunsha herself. The suspense here is phenomenal. Yunshu thinks she is playing chess with the universe, but she doesn't realize the universe is literally her younger sister, quietly taking notes in the dark. Yunshu's rebirth had disrupted my revenge plan. Originally, I wanted to scheme and make her marry that libertine Zhao, Qinchin. From the looks of it now, I'll need to adjust things a bit. Some things aren't forgiven just once, rather. Every time you remember them, you have to forgive them again. I'll always remember the day Aunt died. Yunshu was holding my doll, tears streaming down her face, looking pitiful as father held her in his arms to comfort her. Father had his back to me, coaxing her in a low voice, as if afraid his precious treasure in his arms would shatter. Forget it, forget it. Just a servant. Dead is dead. Don't be scared. Ah, Shu. It was clearly the aunt who gave birth to me who had died. Yet father told Yunshu not to be scared. That evening at dusk, as the sun set in the west, father's towering figure cast an enormous shadow. This shadow has loomed over me in every nightmare. I know that Aunt and I aren't favored, but one cannot, or at least shouldn't, live so pathetically. I started hating myself for taking that afternoon nap. I am clearly just a concubine's daughter, an unloved servant girl. What was I doing imitating a proper young lady's ways? If only I hadn't taken that nap, Mother wouldn't have clashed with Yunshu, and she wouldn't have drowned. Mother was the best person in the world, and the only one who cared about me. All the beautiful words piled as high as mountains couldn't compare to even a fraction of her worth. She even came to me in a dream, forbidding me from feeling guilty, telling me to live well. I won't just live well. I'll make Yunshu pay the price, make everyone who ever looked down on Mother unable to live or die in peace. The next morning, I had just woken up and hadn't finished washing up. When Wen Changfeng arrived at the front hall, father closed the door and talked with him in the study for a long time. At noon, they called me to dine with them. When I arrived, Yunshu and Wen Changfeng were already seated, side by side, chatting and laughing. When I came in, their expressions changed slightly, and they stopped talking. Father lifted his chin, gesturing for me to sit down. Miss Yuna, Wen Changfeng hurriedly stood up and bowed to me. Yunshu glanced at me and coquettishly tugged at his arm. Changfeng, we're all family here. No need to be so formal. I said nothing and sat down. Father indeed brought up the matter of wanting me to agree to dissolve the engagement, brushing it off with a casual, "You've been wronged." Then he picked up his chopsticks and started eating, meaning. This matter was already decided. I had no right to refuse. It has always been like this. What Yunshu wants always comes first. My marriage dignity, my aunt's life and death and reputation, none of it matters as much as Yunshu's happiness. And the dinner table, Yunshu kept serving Wen Changfeng food and pouring tea for him, so attentive it made him blush with embarrassment, flustered and clumsy. I should be the most humiliated and angriest person at this table, yet here I am acting like nothing's wrong. He kept glancing at my face from time to time. After eating, I got up to leave, while Yunshu excitedly went to the study with father to discuss the wedding arrangements. Seeing no one around, Wen Changfeng caught up to me and called out in a low voice, "Miss Yuna, I have something I want to say to you." He wore a green robe today, looking refined and neat. Seeing me stop, he quickly walked up in front of me. He said shamefacedly, "Please allow me to apologize to you, Miss Yuna, for having failed your tender feelings." Actually, I frowned impatiently. No need. I didn't show the sadness and humiliation he'd expected. I didn't even wait for his explanation before turning to leave again. He stood there in a daze, and even after I walked far away, he didn't chase after me. "Since you abandoned me, why put on this pitiful act like you had no choice? Do you really think I'd be heartbroken and upset?" After my engagement was called off, Yunshu busily prepared for her wedding with great fanfare. News that she was marrying down to Wen Changfeng, a lowly 7th rank official, also spread. To avoid suspicion, Yunshu ordered me to throw away all the letters Wen Changfeng had written to me and the gifts he'd given me. When I went out, I also had to deny that I was ever engaged to him, otherwise it would lower her dignity. If word got out that I stole my half-sister's man, wouldn't people laugh their heads off? She had the gall to do this, but others weren't allowed to talk about it. Yunshu was smug and pleased with herself, and had even started putting on the airs of the Prime Minister's wife. She fancied herself as the heavens' favoured daughter. Rebirth was truly strange. If she wasn't the protagonist of this world, who else would be qualified? So this time she would definitely fall in love with the right person and live the most glorious life. I wanted to laugh inside. Hadn't she thought the same thing in her previous life? In her previous life, hadn't she also wholeheartedly believed that the person she loved was worth it? In this life, just because she had the excuse of rebirth, did that make it more worthwhile than the last life? Didn't she understand that the human heart is the most fickle, Summonon, who loves you desperately one moment, can abandon you for profit the next? Sure enough, Yunshu hadn't been happy for long before bad news arrived. Zhao Qinshan discovered that she had abandoned him, the young master of the Prime Minister's manor, and actually chose some nobody. Unable to save face, he spread rumors outside. He said Yunshu had tried to seduce him, and in a fit of anger married someone else after failing. He had evidence, a hairpin, and a scented handkerchief that Yunshu had dropped during their secret meeting that day. Yunshu panicked. She hurriedly checked everywhere and confirmed that she had indeed left it there during their intimacy back then. Damn it. She stormed over to me furiously and slapped me hard across the face with a sharp crack. I was reading a book, completely caught off guard. "You bitch, tell me, was it you who spread this?" She was furious, her face alternating between pale and flushed. "You were just jealous of me, can't stand that I stole your man. Isn't that right?" I suppressed my anger, set the book aside, and said solemnly, "Elder sister, this younger sister wouldn't dare." "You wouldn't dare." She pointed her finger at me and let out 2 cold laughs. Now that the matter has spread, if Changfeng becomes suspicious and grows distant from me, how can I still marry him? "Yungsha, I don't care what method you use, no, immediately at once. Go outside and admit that you stole my clothes and vermilion hairpin that day and impersonated me to seduce Zhao Qinshan." Shu was truly frightened. Her fingers were trembling, as if the happiness she had stolen might slip away at any moment if she wasn't careful. I put on a submissive expression. But even if younger sister admits to this, when elder sister reaches the wedding night with young Master Wen, if young Master Wen discovers that elder sister has no virgin blood, that night she snuck out to taste forbidden fruit, Yungshu would have to pay the price. Yungshu froze for a moment, bit her lip, and a strange look flashed through her eyes. Don't worry, father and I have already discussed it. When the time comes, we'll get him drunk and put out the lights. You and I look 60 to 70% alike, so you'll take my place, he won't notice. Once it is done, and you've bled, make an excuse to clean yourself up and come out, then I'll switch with you. As long as there is blood on the bridal handkerchief, we'll get away with it. I blinked. So the father and daughter had already worked it all out. But what about me? Sister, if I am no longer a virgin, what will I do when I marry in the future? She sneered, the corners of her eyes lifting. Yungsha, having a use for you in the Yun household is already your greatest fortune. With that, she glared at me in warning and turned to leave. I covered my burning cheeks as a maid at my side skillfully fetched an egg to roll over them. When no one was around, I finally laughed with satisfaction. Good Yu in her rebirth is still the same as ever. She took the bait so easily. I took out a piece of paper and wrote with my left hand, continue spreading rumors about Yunshu, begin preparations for escape. Also investigate the type of woman Wen Changfeng likes. Spare no expense in training one, whatever the cost. After finishing the secret letter and carefully sealing it, I whistled to summon a carrier pigeon and sent the letter off. Yunshu wasn't wrong. I was the one who spread the news, precisely to force her into making me take the fall. Only by taking the fall could I prepare for my later escape. Although I had been laying the groundwork around Zhao Qinshan for a long time, planning to slowly torment her after Yungshu married over. I didn't expect something like rebirth to come out of nowhere. I was originally worried whether Yungshu from her previous life would notice my manipulation behind the scenes. But she is still just as stupid as always. I felt relieved, since she no longer likes Zhao Qinshan. Those women I bribed with money don't need to cling to Zhao Qinshan anymore. The next target is Wen Changfeng. Yungshu is absolutely right. I am a poor wretch who is greedy for money, just like my dead aunt. For money, I'd even throw away my life. But money makes the devil turn millstones. It can also make those devils pounce on Yungshu and devour her flesh and blood piece by piece. Just one day after Aunt died, Yungshu got tired of that doll. She had someone send that worn-out doll back to me. The doll Aunt sewed by hand was a little horse. She maliciously cut off one of the little horse's legs, tore open the little horse's belly, pulled out the cotton, then splashed red ink all over it. When the old woman returned the little horse to me, she didn't leave, but widened her eyes, curved up the corners of her mouth, waiting for me to burst into tears. Oh my, the little horse seems to have died. Look, its intestines are spilling out. TSK, TSK. How pitiful. The old woman stared at me expectantly. I turned around and went back into the room. When I came out again, I had a pair of scissors. 3 or 5 snips, 7 or 8 cuts. I frantically shredded that stuffed horse into pieces like a madwoman. The old woman was frightened by me. Her expression changed from expectation to bewilderment, then to terror, and she walked away cursing under her breath. After the old woman left, I set a fire and burned that doll until nothing remained. From that day on, I only wanted money. My father, who never liked me to begin with, found me even more unseemly and stopped even pretending to show affection. Since I loved money, he just rewarded me with gold and silver. I started reading all kinds of books, learning to do business, finding ways to accumulate more money. I was deceived, threatened, and even picked up a beggar to help me show my face in public and manage my business. Finally, achieving some success, I began setting up my schemes bit by bit. I spent money like water, determined to destroy everything Yunshu cared about. I had people get close to Zhao Qinshan to compete with Yunshu for his affection, and had people whisper in Yunshu's ear to push her into premarital relations. But Yunshu had been reborn. Fortunately, though, even after one rebirth, she was still an idiot with nothing but men on her mind. While she waxed poetic about how star-crossed her love was, I was recording the political changes and public sentiment of that time. What was popular among the common people back then, which officials had exposed their weaknesses, who emerged as a dark horse. All of this would once again become my weapon to take revenge on her. Over the next few days, I began going out frequently. When going out, Yunshu forced me to wear the clothes she had worn that day when she was intimate with Zhao Qinshan, and to wear her jewelry. She also started spreading rumors outside that I was promiscuous, seducing young Master Zhao, and that despite being merely a concubine's daughter, I still fantasized about entering the Prime Minister's household. I was utterly disgusted, but I still had to obediently accept it. The more I was humiliated, the greater the possibility of using this matter to escape. After wandering the streets for a while, I went to my shop and went up to a hidden loft. Ag was dressed in men's clothing, standing at my side. She was a beggar I had picked up 5 years ago. It was the dead of winter then, and she had passed out from the cold. I spent a fortune to save her. A young girl, starved beyond recognition, wrapped in wet, heavy straw in the freezing winter. If I hadn't saved her, she wouldn't have survived that winter later. When she woke up and looked at me for the first time, I knew we were the same kind of people. Now she is my second in command, from a scrawny beansprout to a young woman who now stands a head taller than me. Agu is the person I trust most in this world. If rumors spread that you impersonated your legitimate elder sister to seduce a man, you won't be able to turn back for the rest of your life. Agu looked at me with concern. I waved my hand dismissively, completely unconcerned. Reputation is something that can only hurt you when you care about it. She looked at me with heartache. Find a nunnery. I want to become a nun. Also, regarding the newly appointed officials on this list, start bribing and getting close to them. Have them show goodwill to Wen Changfeng. Spare no expense in paving the way for Wen Changfeng's rebellion. Agu was startled by me. Rebellion. Would he dare? Ever since that night when Yunshu said I would get divorced, I've thought about it for a long time and considered many scenarios. Actually, Wen Changfeng is a qualified choice for a partner to live with. I can accept that he doesn't love me, even that he treats me as a substitute. No matter how many concubines he takes, I don't care, as long as I can live well. But in my previous life, I got divorced. Yunshu died shortly after my divorce, then was reborn. She doesn't know why I got divorced, or what happened after the divorce. She only knows that Wen Changfeng has unlimited prospects. Much better than that beast Zhao Qinshan. But is that really the case? What happened afterward must not be simple. Her head is full of men. She never even thought carefully about why things developed the way they did. Therefore, I speculate that Wen Changfeng had the idea of taking sides and rebelling. Once discovered, it would result in the execution of 9 generations of the family. But Yunshu died too early. She doesn't know. Regardless of whether he wanted to rebel in the previous life or conspire with others to rebel. In this life, I will guide him down this path. Moreover, if I tell that fool Yunshu that she can totally take a gamble and let Wen Changfeng be granted a princely title, or even become emperor, doesn't she think she is the protagonist of the world? Would she not covet the position of empress or royal consort? Gossip came like a raging flood, forcing me to stay indoors. People who recognized me all cursed at me, and some even threw rotten eggs and vegetable leaves at me in secret, insulting me for having aspirations beyond my station, daring to impersonate my legitimate elder sister to seduce the young master of the Prime Minister's manor. Zhao Qinshan knew the truth, but he cherished his reputation too much to defend a lowly concubine-born daughter. Father rewarded me with a pile of gold and silver, but didn't come to see me even once. Yun Shu was happily preparing for her wedding. Next month she would be married off. Father had made a huge gamble and would warn me from time to time, admonishing me while brainwashing me. Ah, Shah, everyone has their own mission in this lifetime. Your mission is to dedicate yourself to the prosperity of the Yun Manor. The day before Yun Shu's wedding, he came to find me personally and had a heart-to-heart talk with me. Father sighed first. You are also Father's daughter. Father knows you've been wronged. He mechanically recited those words, the concern in his eyes not reaching their depths. But you know your sister's temperament. We're family, and when she makes a mistake, we as her family must help her. I nodded. Father is right. It would be best if, in a few years when Wen Changfeng's crimes are exposed, and the Yun Manor gets implicated, he could also speak so mercifully about how family should share the burden. When it comes to dying, the whole family should go together, neat and tidy. Seeing my indifference, he was momentarily at a loss for words. Don't worry. After this matter is settled, Father will make it up to you properly. I pretended to be grateful. The rumors had fermented enough by now. It was time to execute my plan of escape. Father, I seek no compensation, only one request. He suddenly closed his mouth, looking at me warily. What is it? The rumors have been spreading like wildfire these days. I know that staying at the Yun residence will only bring shame to the family. I let 2 tears fall, gazing at Father with glistening eyes. I wished to sever family ties and become a nun, spending the rest of my life with only prayer lamps and Buddha, praying for elder sister and Father's blessings. Once I have no ties to the Yun family, others won't have anything to say about the Yun residence either. After I finished speaking, Father remained silent for a long while. Fearing he wouldn't let me leave, I added, this way, word will spread of Father's mercy toward me. I did such things as stealing my legitimate elder sister's clothes and hairpins, shamelessly trying to seduce the legitimate son of the Prime Minister's residence. I should have been drowned in a pig cage as a warning to others. But Father is merciful and allows me to renounce the world, leaving me with my whole life intact. This is pure tactical genius. When Yunshu's reputation is ruined by her own scandalous behavior, she and their cowardly father try to force Yunsha to take the blame and sacrifice her virginity to cover it up. Instead of waiting to be destroyed, Yunsha weaponizes their own patriarchal obsession with reputation against them. She volunteers to take the fall, but only if they legally sever all family ties and send her to a nunnery, which she already secretly controls. She uses her own oppression as an escape hatch. She doesn't just run away, she makes her abusers legally sign away their power over her, whilst they pat themselves on the back for being merciful. It is a stunning display of survival. With reddened eyes, I said, Father, don't you think this is the best solution? My words carried a trace of genuine resentment. It clearly wasn't my fault. I did nothing wrong. But every time Yunshu acted impulsively, I was the one who had to bear the consequences, as if I deserved to be the scapegoat. Everyone thought I was born to be a supporting character in a storybook, someone who exists to set off others. Being able to go through hell and high water for the protagonist was considered my greatest achievement, my happiness, my life. What do those matter? How could they be more important than her protagonist's love story? The study fell silent for a moment. Then you will no longer be a young lady of the Yun family. Father's voice sounded somewhat hoarse. So be it, so be it. Although you'll have no ties with the Yun family henceforth, I will still send people to protect you over there. I wiped my tears with a handkerchief, thoroughly wiping away all these years of expectations and grievances. With this, everything became much simpler. I said with a smile, there is no time to lose. Let's do it today. Tomorrow, when eldest sister marries, she won't be subjected to gossip either. Father only hesitated for a moment before calling someone to fetch my birth contract and documents, as if afraid I'd change my mind. In just over an hour, the people sent to inquire about the nunnery returned to report. It was precisely the nunnery I had secretly bribed. Agu at the nunnery had pulled some strings. Ivrion, there was our people. That afternoon, Father went to the Yamen to make the public announcement. When Agu relayed the news to me, she said the onlookers were all shouting praises for Father's actions, upholding righteousness over family ties, correcting mistakes when aware of them, and that it wasn't too late to repent. Now, the corners of Father's mouth nearly stretched to his ears. His good-for-nothing concubine, born daughter, had finally been useful for once. The next day, before dawn had even broken, the Yun residence was already bustling with activity. Everyone was so busy their feet didn't touch the ground, those attending to Yunsu's grooming and dressing, those checking the dowry, and the wedding matron explaining the wedding arrangements. No one noticed that I, this concubine-born daughter, quietly slipped out through the side door. When I left this time, I didn't bring anything with me. The clothes on my body and the hairpins were all purchased by me outside. From this place, I didn't want to have even the slightest connection anymore. Agu was waiting for me outside. Beside her was a spacious carriage. She held a handful of wildflowers in her hand, wearing a low-key grey men's outfit. Seeing me approach, she raised her arm with a smile. Congratulations on your freedom. I hid outside for a month. According to Agu's informant, it wasn't until the afternoon that Yunshu and Father discovered I was missing. They searched until dusk. When Wen Changfeng came to fetch the bride, they finally panicked, cursing loudly in my courtyard and torturing my servants under interrogation to force answers. Yunshu had been waiting for me to offer up my virginity for her love on the wedding night, but I just had to run away. Those servants were Yunshu's spies to begin with. Even beating them to death wouldn't get them to reveal my whereabouts. Yunshu married on schedule. She wasn't a fool. On the wedding night, she used the excuse that her monthly period had just arrived. After that, she probably thought of some other method to avoid the matter. Wen Changfeng still loved her madly, wishing he could pluck down the stars from the sky to give to her. Their affection for each other aroused the envy of many. During the month I was hiding, everyone in the Yun residence searched high and low for me. Even the nunnery I was supposed to go to was turned upside down. Concerned about their reputation, they naturally didn't dare say I'd gone missing. They could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger, claiming I was in seclusion at the nunnery, covering for me. They never imagined that a concubine's daughter would actually dare to run away, nor would they allow a concubine's daughter to tarnish the Yun family's reputation. Watching them suffer, I found it amusing. After a month, I returned to the nunnery. That afternoon, Yunshu came storming in angrily. Agu and I entered the nunnery together, so she could finally accompany me openly. Therefore, when Yunshu tried to hit me again, Agu blocked her hand with a cold face. "Benefactor, please restrain yourself." Yunshu looked at Agu in disbelief. This was the first time she tried to hit me and failed. With a dark expression, she looked down at me from above. "Yunsha, will you slap yourself, or shall I do it?" In the past, I would have been trembling in fear, desperately slapping my own face, until Yunshu laughed happily. But now, I raised my face, lifted my hand, and fiercely slapped her across the face. With a sharp crack, Yunshu's carefully maintained face quickly swelled up red. She was stunned, as if she'd seen a ghost. The next second, she lunged at me with claws out. "Fucking bitch! You dare hit me! What the hell do you think you are?" I'd endured for over 10 years. This was just the beginning of my revenge. Just one slap, and Yunshu already couldn't take it. Agu blocked in front of me and restrained her arms in just a few moves. Unable to strike, Yunshu started berating me. She cursed me as an ungrateful wretch, saying the Yun household had raised me for so many years, and when they needed me, I just up and ran away. I knew you were up to no good. Damn it, you absolute bastard. You nearly ruined me. She hated me to the extreme, her eyes bloodshot. Do you think you can stay away from the Yun household forever? Do you think this tiny little nunnery can protect you? When you return to the household, just wait and see if father doesn't skin you alive. I put my palms together and lowered my eyes. Elder sister, I am so scared. What if father doesn't donate incense money, and the abbess gets angry and makes my life difficult? Then I'll have to go hungry, dress poorly, and be tormented every day. She was stunned for a moment and nodded instinctively. Right, you depend entirely on the Yun household for sustenance. Without the Yun household, you are nothing. Ha ha ha. I suddenly burst into laughter, doubled over as if I'd heard an incredibly funny joke. Elder sister, the one who depends on the Yun household for sustenance, who lives by relying on men, has always been you, not me. Yunshu didn't expect me to be so obstinate. How did I, who used to be extremely timid, suddenly become so defiant? She didn't understand, but there was nothing she could do. I am no longer part of the Yun household. I have nothing to do with her. If she insists on making a move, all she'll get is one slap after another. Besides, she is still counting on me to take the blame for her scandal of seducing someone. The Yun household can't do anything to me anymore. Right after Yunshu left, Wen Changfeng arrived. It is rare for men to come to the nunnery. He went straight to the abbess, specifically asking for me to resolve his doubts, and paid quite a hefty donation. In just a moment he appeared before me. I didn't want to pay him any attention, but I couldn't resist when the abbess said I'd get half of the donation money. Fine, I can't argue with money. Haven't seen him in a while. Wen Changfeng looked even more radiant, his entire being full of vigor, marrying a beauty and gaining his father-in-law's support. Wen Changfeng would reach that position even faster than in his previous life. His tone this time was even more apologetic than when he broke off the engagement to marry another. Second, Miss Yun, I am sorry. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have fallen to the point of breaking ties with the Yun household and becoming a nun. His eyes fixed on my grey robes and my smooth, fair neck exposed outside. He probably thought I was devastated by him. Thinking of this, I frowned, showing a worried expression, and sighed softly. Benefactor, things are as they are. There is no use saying anything else. When Changfeng's lips moved, if you are willing, I can find a way to get you out and take care of you. You mean you want to keep me as your mistress? I bluntly exposed the hidden meaning in Wen Changfeng's words. How shameless. He tacitly accepted what I said, staring at me intently. Second, Miss Yun. Even at this point, he still wanted to use me to satisfy his selfish desire to redeem others. I smiled and decided to add fuel to the fire. Did my legitimate elder sister ever tell you about her rebirth? After a moment, he nodded. This fool, it is good that she told him. My legitimate elder sister said that you have the bearing of an emperor in the future. Although we don't have the fate of husband and wife, we're still half relatives. At this moment, young Master Wen should focus wholeheartedly on your own future. I sincerely suggested, although saying this may be somewhat taboo, I believe that young Master Wen is brilliant and talented, inferior to no one. You mustn't disappoint my legitimate elder sister. Wen Changfeng trembled violently. He seemed not to have expected that I would have such a high opinion of him. His gaze was complicated, and in the end he said nothing and got up to leave. A moment later, Agu came out from behind the screen. She crossed her arms and clicked her tongue. Yunshu is appallingly selfish and self-serving, and this Wen Changfeng is also audaciously bold, truly thinking himself to be some incredible figure. People from the same bed can't produce two different types. In your past life, being able to divorce should have been your most clear-headed decision. I neither agreed nor disagreed. How is the training of that group of women coming along? Agu smiled. Very good. Each one is as beautiful as flowers and jade. Even I, a woman, feel like getting close to them. So tender and gentle like water, they're surely much more endearing than that haughty Yungshu. Find an opportunity and have them approach Wen Changfeng. Agu nodded as the words fell. I felt a bit dazed. I still remember that night when Yungshu jumped into the lake. She said that in her previous life, after she married Zhao Qinchen, it was only a few months before Zhao Qinchen grew tired of her. One after another, many new women entered his side, each with deep schemes. She kept fighting with that group of women, and in the struggle, both sides suffered losses. She always had the feeling of being targeted and toyed with, as if all the most alluring and enchanting women in the world had come for Zhao Qinchen. No, I am finally certain. Yeah, that was also my doing. With the information Yunshu revealed after her rebirth, I quickly gained control of a group of minor officials, either with money or with leverage. They began praising Wen Changfeng in all sorts of ways, commending his every word and deed, and women were sent to his residence like flowing water. Anu Sirius held a glorious public life for several years. And in closed doors, it was unbearably bitter. Wen Changfeng loved her, but not that much. What a young man cannot obtain will trap him for life. Yunshu went from being the unattainable white moonlight he loved, but couldn't have, to becoming the easily obtained cinnabar mole. Without that halo, Wen Changfeng soon found her dull. In order to compete for favor, Yunshu began using information from her previous life to help him manage his power in the imperial court. Wen Changfeng grew very quickly. Next, it was time for the chess piece I'd been cultivating for over a decade to make its move. With his own ambition at play, Yunshu's greedy brainwashing, plus the calculated praise and sabotage from the people I arranged, soon Wen Changfeng chose to align himself with a political faction. The Yun family had no choice but to be tied to that same boat. After that, intense factional strife began. Wen Changfeng began to feel overwhelmed, forced to be pushed along by the situation, doing many things from which there was no turning back. Yun Shu started to panic. She came to find me, demanding to know why exactly I had divorced him in my previous life. 10 years had passed by this point. The clothes on her body were extraordinarily luxurious. Any jade hairpin on her hair bun was worth a fortune. Her face was powdered with crushed pearls, her lips painted with peach red rouge. But she looked exhausted, as if she'd aged 20 years. Every lady and young miss in the capital had to curry favor with her, the Prime Minister's wife, but now she was humbly tugging at my sleeve, begging me to tell her. Yun Sha, why did you divorce him in your previous life? Elder sister, how would I know? You are the one with rebirth. I smiled faintly. Besides, asking about this only now, don't you think it is a bit late, elder sister? Yun Shu's eyes tightened. She wore nail guards on her fingernails, embedded with red and green gems. They dug into my arm. It hurt. I forcefully pried open her hands and stepped back 2 paces. Sister, I am nothing but a poor wretch. The wealth and status I couldn't enjoy in my previous life, I have no right to in this life either. Yunshu's face turned ashen grey as she looked at me in despair. Unable to get the answer she sought, she returned dejected. Half a year later, evidence of Wen Changfeng's conspiracy to rebel was submitted to the throne. The emperor flew into a rage and issued an edict to execute 9 generations of his family, with execution set for after autumn. I was no longer part of the Yun household, so naturally I was spared from death. When the imperial edict for the execution of 9 generations arrived, I deliberately went down the mountain with Agu and stood in the crowd watching with great interest. It is not like this. Yunshu shoved away the government officials trying to grab her. If I do it over again, I won't be wrong. It is impossible. Others wouldn't indulge her. Seeing her throw a tantrum, they slapped her twice across the face. Yunshu was stunned and stood there motionless. She suddenly struggled desperately. At first, she still fantasized that the Yun household could save her, but when she learned the Yun household was implicated and father would also be executed, she began raving madly about her innocence. It is not me. The one who deserves to die is Yun Sha, my concubine-born sister. She dredged up events from over a decade ago, saying the one who was supposed to marry Wen Changfeng was her concubine-born sister Yun Sha, but who would pay attention to a dying lunatic. Agu stood beside me and muttered, "Even if it were you, you wouldn't die. You are divorced after all. Men, they really can't be relied on." Yunshu prided herself on her rebirth, yet she still walked the same old path as her previous life. After Yunshu was imprisoned, she became like a madwoman, unable to accept her shattered dreams. She cried and laughed, one moment knocking over her food and refusing to eat, even if it meant death, the next moment picking it back up and desperately stuffing it into her mouth. Out of kindness, I went to the prison to see her. When she saw me, she froze for a long while before reacting, then lunged at the iron bars, crying and screaming. "Yunsha, you ruined me. It should be you who dies, you, not me." Her hair was disheveled and filthy, reeking of sour stench. I covered my nose. "Elder sister." "Oh wait, I forgot. I have nothing to do with the Yun family anymore. Miss Yun, it was you who insisted on marrying him back then." She was distracted for a moment. "No, that is not right. Did you already know that Wen Changfeng's rebellion would fail? You knew in your previous life, didn't you? In this life, you also thought of becoming a nun to protect yourself." Facing disaster, Yunshu finally got smart for once. I didn't answer her question. "For the sake of our past acquaintance, I've come to see you off." She pounded on the iron bars, her body swaying back and forth. "You fucking bitch. It is you who ruined me. I should have thrown you into the lake that afternoon too, let you die with your bitch of a mother. I must have been blind not to see that you were the mantis stalking the cicada." Yunshu's regret was so deep her guts turned green. I thoroughly enjoyed her breakdown before death, savoring the taste of successful revenge. "If Miss Yun is not satisfied, you'll just have to go through rebirth one more time." She screamed like a ghost, reaching out her arms trying to grab me. The violent commotion attracted the jailer. The jailer came over with a stick, and as soon as he approached, Yunshu was so frightened, she shut her mouth tight and turned to hide in the corner. The jailer snorted coldly before leaving again. She stared at me hatefully, saying nothing more. After quietly watching her for a while longer, I left some tea money for the jailer, instructing him to take good care of the people from the Yun household. As for Wen Changfeng and father, I couldn't even be bothered to look at them. Their own evil consequences were waiting for them. I wanted them to live as peacefully as possible until the day they died. To slowly savor that kind of despair with death looming over them. Better not let them hang themselves from that despair before that day comes. That jailer was quite agreeable too. He held the heavy money pouch, grinning. "The abbess is truly kind-hearted. It is because of all the good deeds you've done over the years that you were spared from meeting the same fate as these people. Rest assured, I'll watch over them well and make sure they eat well and sleep well." I smiled faintly. Amitabha. On the day of execution, I specially changed into regular clothes, and on a whim, even sewed a little horse doll. Holding that childish stuffed toy, I stood at the front of the crowd, watching them being executed. Yunshu was so scared she lost control of her bladder and bowels, and Wen Changfeng wasn't much better off. Father had seen great storms after all. Even with his hair completely white and eyes filled with desperate sorrow, his bearing was still relatively dignified. When he saw me, father suddenly became agitated. "Yun Sha," he shouted loudly. Yunshu and Wen Changfeng also looked at me together. I nodded with a smile. At this moment, noon had arrived, and the executioners raised their great blades high. I also raised that little horse stuffed toy, placed it in front of myself, playing with its 4 legs. Clop, clop, clop. I performed the scene of a little horse running. Auntie died for this stuffed toy, and I offered it as a gift before their death. This is the absolute pinnacle of karmic retribution. 10 years have passed because of Yun Sha's subtle manipulations in the political sphere. Wen Changfeng's ambition has led him to commit treason, dragging the entire Yun family down to the execution block. As the blade is about to fall, Yun Sha stands safely in the crowd, immune because she severed ties a decade ago. She holds up a simple toy horse, a replica of the toy her mother died over. It is chilling. In their final moments, the family realizes that the quiet, worthless girl they abused didn't just survive. She spent a decade carefully weaving the noose that is currently around their necks. Yunshu's already bloodless cheeks suddenly turned deathly pale. Father's expression also became dazed. The first thing I did when I had free time, I set up a memorial tomb for Auntie and made offerings regularly. The second thing, I faced the nightmare of drowning head-on and learned to swim. Agu insisted on teaching me. The third thing, we went traveling again. Agu and I, 1 carriage, a few bodyguards, and lots of silver. We sailed upon blue waves, admiring rivers flowing into the sea, seeking wild paths through the forest, then searching for Osmanthus at the mountain temple under moonlight. Early rising doesn't mind the bitter cold. Late returning doesn't fear the frost. This beautiful land has healed me in so many ways. A long time later, when talking about the events of those years again, Agu said I had too much patience, enduring day after day for 10 years, laying out such a grand scheme behind the scenes, yet remaining completely composed on the surface. Waiting 3 years, 5 years, even over 10 years. Waiting for Wen Changfeng to grow, waiting for the Yun household to fall, waiting for all grievances to be settled in the passage of time. In the end, great vengeance was repaid. Agu asked me with emotion, back when I first learned that Yun Shu had rebirth, was I afraid? I smiled. Perhaps it was heaven's will to let Yun Shu fully taste the karmic consequences. That is why rebirth was bestowed upon her. Some sins merely repaying for 1 lifetime is simply not enough. If I were to distill the absolute brilliance of this story, I would give you these 2 phrases: the illusion of foreknowledge and weaponized patience. This story brilliantly dismantles the illusion of foreknowledge. Yun Shu thinks rebirth makes her invincible, but knowing the future is useless if you do not understand why the future happened. She chased the prize, the successful man, without realizing that the man only succeeded because his environment, controlled by Yun Sha, allowed him to. A foolish person with a time machine is still, ultimately, a foolish person. On the other hand, Yun Sha is the embodiment of weaponized patience. She doesn't seek instant, messy revenge. She waits 3 years, 5 years, a decade. She plants seeds of ambition and paranoia in the men her sister relies on, and then simply steps back and watches them destroy themselves. It is elegant, thorough, and utterly devastating. So, the lesson for today: if someone quietly lets you take the thing they were supposed to have, be very, very careful. It might not be a gift. It might be bait. If you loved this tale of slow burn, ice-cold retribution as much as I did, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like if you appreciate a woman who knows how to play the long game. And drop into the comments and tell me, if you could go back 10 years with all the knowledge you have now, what is the first thing you would change? Let's hear your master plans below. Until next time, keep your secrets close and your patience endless. Tara.